wow, I didn't think I was going to feel this. I'm just like feeling this right now. I remember him grabbing my hand and looking at me and saying, just remember, whatever happens to me, Kristen, it's not your fault. Well, I'd like to, so let me tee it up a little bit. So obviously episode 1, we kind of ran through like a high level, what the podcast is going to be about. And I think it would be helpful to like run through my romantic history a little bit and tell the story of where I am now. 30, still hot, single. Oh my goodness. My past relationships. So boyfriend number 1 is a guy that I went to high school with, but he was a few classes above me. We didn't date in high school, but I actually met him. I was actually at his birthday party. I was a date to one of his friends from the football team. I was his date to boyfriend number 1's birthday party. And we just instantly like had this energy between us, and there was like a flirty, sensual vibe. So we started dating, had a little bit of a summer fling, summer before I went off to U of A. Lost my virginity that summer to him, was scared shitless that I was going to hell. Yeah, because I grew up in a household where it is very much not okay to engage in sexual relations before you are married. So that was that. So I have to dig deep into my memory. So I remember summer before college. I remember it feeling like infatuation with each other. Like we were very like into each other. It was like summer young love, like all that stuff. And then going off to college. So I was in an all girls dorm and I was rushing for sorority. Now it's coming back to me. I was rushing for sorority, and that was also my first time like living not in the same town as my family, like trying to kind of like figure out my way. And I remember that first semester, so I dropped out of sorority after one semester, just wasn't for me. But I remember that first semester while I was in sorority, there were so many weekends that I would spend going back up to Phoenix to visit him, or he would come down to visit me. And I was so consumed with managing that relationship and kind of his, I don't want to put it all on him, but his expectations of like how much time we should be spending together. And so I was constantly being kind of pulled and like trying to be present and live in Tucson and enjoy my time and like making friends and finding myself as a young woman and like just having a good time and like bonding with my dorm mates, like all the girls, and then also on the other side being pulled kind of to Phoenix, where it was like girlfriend duties is what it felt like with him. And yeah, I mean, I remember like I couldn't even go out to parties, just regular college parties, like house parties. I couldn't go out to college parties without boyfriend number 1 calling me, rigging me up, texting me, like checking in on me all the time. So even though we didn't live in the same city, like if he knew that I was out, because I never hid it from him if I was going out like that night, you know, he was aware of it. I have so many memories of just like stepping outside of house parties and like standing in the front lawn, having to like call him, respond to him, tell him what I was up to, him questioning me. Yeah. So, and I don't remember at what point in my freshman year, but I knew for a while I wanted to break up with him because I was feeling like I didn't have the freedom I wanted. And my dorm mate at the time, she probably remembers this, like there was so much back and forth of emotion of like, how do I break up with him? I was scared to do it. So I finally, the first time I tried to break up with him, I did it over the phone. And I remember sitting in my dorm room. And actually I went out into the common living area of our dorm room. So I had privacy because my roommate was home at the time. And I called him because I knew if I did it in person next time I were to see him, that it just was going to be probably too hard for me to do it or whatever. And I remember the first time I tried to break up with him on the phone, I remember he went into full on like panic attack mode And I remember hearing him get into his car. He had like a 5-speed, I remember what it was, something that was, you could hear him shifting gears, and he was like hyperventilating on the phone. I could hear him in his car, and he's speeding down the freeway, like having this like meltdown on the phone. I mean, well, now I think it's an act, but at the time it felt very real. Yeah. And I could hear him like shifting, and he's like, like, you can't do this, Kristen. You can't do this. Like, I'm going to come down and see you. And all this wave of emotion over me, I can hear him speeding his car. And in my mind, I'm like, this man is going to like drive off the road. Like, he seemed so unstable. Yeah. So I immediately was like, okay, for number one, I almost said his name. I don't think I did. I can always edit it out. I remember feeling like I felt responsible for his safety at that point. So I said, okay, we'll talk. So I agreed to talk to him and kind of like undid my breakup conversation, because I felt like this man was unstable and gonna just do something stupid. And I can't remember if he ended up driving down that weekend or what happened, but that was breakup attempt number one. We stayed together. And then fast forward, it must have been within a month or two. I remember going out with my girlfriends to college parties and feeling this desire to want to like flirt with guys and like do my thing. And I knew deep down, I'm like, I need to not be in a relationship right now. So we went on like a break of sorts, and I had a little fling with someone and just was kind of like sensing my freedom. But somehow I kept going back to him. I don't know why, but he definitely had a controlling grip over me for sure. Yeah. So then I ended up dropping out of the sorority, which I think is two-part, because I think it wasn't, sorority life for me was not what I expected or wanted of it. But I do think that if I could go back and would have done that over again and wasn't in that controlling relationship, I might have had a different experience, because I would have been maybe open to like connecting with the right girls to like bond with. But I think I was so caught up with this manipulative like older boyfriend in my life that it just wasn't a good fit. At some point too, my freshman year, I remember when I visited him in Phoenix, we went on, I don't know if it was like our 1-year date anniversary or something. There was some kind of celebratory thing. We had barely been together maybe 1 year. And yes, we barely had been, because it was my freshman year. And I remember him gifting me a promise ring, or like is that what you'd call it? A promise ring. And this ring looked legitimately like an engagement ring. Like, it had a little bitty diamond, and it was very modest and small and cute, but it looked like a fucking engagement ring. And I remember sitting in his car opening this box, and I'm like, oh my God, he's proposing. Oh my God, I'm going to die. No, it wasn't an engagement ring. It was a promise ring, which I remember feeling every time he'd come down to visit me. When he wasn't there, I wouldn't wear it. When he was there, I'd put it on, because it felt like it was his way of like taking ownership over me. And people would look at it, think it's an engagement ring, and I'm fucking 18 years old. So all these little things, right? So like, couldn't go out and party without him hassling me, giving me a hard time. Like, couldn't go out and just have out time with my girls. We're putting a engagement lookalike ring on, his girlfriend, like all these different things. A very controlling, first year of relationship. And then I'm trying to remember next thing that happened. That was just kind of off and on throughout freshman year. Breaking up, trying to get back together, breaking up, couldn't break up with him, tried to break up with him. He wouldn't let me. I also wasn't like naive enough, and at the time didn't have enough, like, I don't know if it's confidence or just experience to like know how to handle that type of manipulation. Yeah. I remember even my mom, she knew a little bit of what was going on. And I think this was also towards the end of my freshman year, she drove all the way down from Phoenix to Tucson to pick me up, because she knew that I wanted this to be the final breakup of them all. And she drove down to Tucson, brought me back up to Phoenix. I spent the night with mom and dad, and didn't tell boyfriend number one that I was in town in Phoenix, because I was waiting to like kind of catch him off guard the next day. And the plan was mom was going to take me to like a coffee shop somewhere that was public and safe and neutral, and kind of wait in the car while I had this conversation, so that I could kind of easily walk away and not have to be like stuck in his apartment with him. And he found out through someone. I don't know how he found out. He found out that I was there, and he showed up at our house that night. Unannounced. Unannounced. dad Jim was working, and it was just mom. I think Katie and Mikey were there, my sister and brother. And he just knocked on the door, and I remember Katie, I think I was in the bedroom talking to mom, and Katie comes in and she's like, boyfriend number one's here. Oh my God. So my heart's beating. So I decide to just like step outside and like have this conversation out front of the house, which at least I'm like, you know, somewhere near family. So it feels safe. And we kind of go on a little bit of a walk down the sidewalk, and I'll never forget. I remember me, you know, having the courage to like, I really just think I need to like have my own time, and like I'm trying to like grow and learn. I just really don't think I shouldn't be in a relationship right now. And I remember him like grabbing my arm, not like aggressively, but like grabbing my arm and like holding my hand and like looking at me and saying, wow, I didn't think I was gonna feel this. I'm just like feeling this right now. I remember him grabbing my hand and looking at me and saying, just remember, whatever happens to me, Kristen, it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he put on this whole like I'm gonna probably hurt myself. So I'm shaking at this point, and I'm just like, and I remember actually before he even said that, I remember him actually making comments before it led up to that comment I just shared. I remember him saying things like, why can't you just kind of do what you need to do down in school, and like I won't question you. It was almost like he was like kind of in a way giving me permission to like cheat on him or mess around. But then he would kind of like say that, but he still wanted me to be with him. But then when I made it clear that no, I don't want to be with you, then he laid this like suicidal act on me. So we like go our ways. I go back in the house. He goes back to his apartment in Phoenix, and then I remember that weekend at some point I drove over to his place because I think I had like some clothes or toiletries or something at his apartment from when I would visit him. So I drove over there just to like get those things and be done. And I think I brought someone in the car with me to wait. And I get there, I go up into his apartment to get my clothes from him, and he his energy was very much different from like the 2 nights before that I saw him. And he tells me that everything that he said to me the couple nights prior was all an act and all a lie. And he tells me that his mother, that he growing up witnessed his mother doing these exact manipulative games with her boyfriend's ex-husbands. And so he kind of learned that behavior from her. And he told me that after he and I had that breakup conversation, he called his mom like crying or upset that night or the next morning. And his mom, who I had gotten pretty close with, like I'd met her several times. She was lovely. We got along great. His mom, this is what he told me. His mom said, like, boyfriend number one, like, you need to tell her the truth. Like, this is not okay that you played this game on her. So he tells me this, which I was like relieved to know that he wasn't actually suicidal, but then also was pissed that like he would play that game on me. Then fast forward into second semester sophomore year is when I moved in with Hillary's second sophomore year. And Hillary and I were like super, we had become really good friends. And Hillary was not one to like shy away from her vocalizing that she wasn't a fan of boyfriend number one. And I remember like really struggling with like this defensiveness of my relationship. But like, it's so crazy because Hillary and I have reconnected now years later. And it's crazy now looking back because I just remember feeling so like judged by her and some of my other girlfriends. Boyfriend number one and I were like up and down, breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together. And it was a whole thing. And I think all my girlfriends around me at the time could see how toxic it was. And they were trying to support me, but I was just in this like little manipulated bubble and I was trapped. And so I would get defensive and feel judged because they weren't supportive of me. All the while they just wanted the best for me, which I know that now. I'll share with you guys like before we broke up, there was a summer that I moved to live with him. Because I didn't want to live in Tucson. It's miserable in the summer. And I lived with him for a summer. And I remember that was like the first glimpse that I had of like what it would be like to marry this man. And I was like, this is not going to be my fucking life. Yeah. So I was nannying that summer. I picked up a nanny gig and I was nannying during the week. And I remember I would get up in the morning and, we'd usually like get up around the same time, sometimes not. But some days I didn't have to be to work as early as him. And I remember one morning I got up, or no, I didn't get up because I didn't have to be into work for another hour. And he had like an early client because remember I was in bed, sleeping in bed, and he was getting ready in the bathroom. And I remember him coming into the bedroom and waking me up and saying like, hey, are you gonna make us breakfast? Because I had like kind of made a routine of like when I would wake up and make breakfast, I would just also make breakfast for him, like just to be courteous. And so I feel like he'd gotten used to it enough where that was like the expectation. So there were just little things like that happened throughout the whole summer where I was just like, this is not going to be my life. 50s housewife, like expectations, like gender role type of bullshit. Yeah. He also, I should add to, like, was very much against drinking, socially drinking. So I remember, like, every time I'd go out with girlfriends in college, he'd always make these, like, kind of, like, I am better than other people comments because, like, he didn't drink as much as other people and, like, it's not good for your body. And so anytime I'd go out and want to, like, let loose and have drinks with girlfriends, I always felt this, like, judgment if I were to ever get a little bit too intoxicated for his comfort. This is all a control thing, right? But yeah, and then sophomore year, I guess that would have been sophomore year. It was second semester sophomore year. We had a another break, and I was studying, I think it was midterms, finals. It might have been finals sophomore year. I was studying in the library with a couple of my friends. And I had my laptop up and my Facebook tab was open and I all of a sudden see a ping and this random person I'd never met in my life pings me on Facebook and I can't remember said person's name. And this guy goes, hey, are you so-and-so's girlfriend? And I responded saying, hey, do I know you? ? And I used to be, but no longer anymore. We broke up. Like, who are you? What are you, like, what's up? He proceeds to tell me that he said, oh, I found you. I hope you don't mind. I found you on Facebook and I was looking through your photos and you just look like a nice person, like nice smile. You seem happy and like a sweet girl. And I just thought you should know that your ex has been sleeping with my fiance or wife for the last several months or few months. And I had just broken up with him a couple weeks prior. So obviously we weren't together anymore, but the timeline this guy was giving me was clearly there was a crossover. And I remember I just like went into like boiling, like mad, like I don't even know all the feelings that I felt. I was so overwhelmed. And so I'm like going back and forth with this guy, kind of like trying to get the details and trying to like get the whole story straight from his perspective. And, oh, now I'm remembering too. I also confirmed some of these details because at the time, I remember boyfriend number one, he had logged into his Facebook from my computer at one point. And so I was able to get into his Facebook and I searched this girl's name and found some messages between the two of them. And the messages were implying like clearly she had slept over at his apartment. And there was a message where she said to him something like, hey, have you talked to your girlfriend? Like, blah, 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 blah. And like knowing that she had slept over and they'd hooked up at his apartment. And I knew because I had spent many times at his apartment that there was photos of him and I everywhere. Like, I just couldn't imagine that. Yeah, it's fucking weird. But she was clearly aware that he had a girlfriend. I get back to my apartment that night and I call boyfriend number one and just straight up say like, did you cheat on, like, just very much like, did you cheat on me? Just straight up asked him. And he didn't try to hide it at that point. He like broke down on the phone and got teary-eyed and like disclosed everything. And so he had basically one of his good girlfriends who was never a big fan of me. One of his good girlfriends who I remember I tried so hard to connect and bond with her and I just could tell she never liked me. She apparently had a friend that, cause she was roomies with my ex at the time, with boyfriend number one. And they were just friends. But later I found out from someone else down like in the group that she actually finally admitted her love for him or something like that. So there was a whole thing there, but they weren't dating, but they were roommates, and they'd have kickbacks and have parties on the weekends. And I'm obviously still in Tucson at the time, and they're up in Phoenix, and his good girlfriend had invited this friend to like a house party, and he told me that basically like she kind of really was like encouraging for something to happen between him and this girl when him and I were still together. I don't know if she was married or engaged. It was something like, yes, she had. So he came forward with everything, and that was like the final straw. We never got back together after that. So yeah, that was that summer before junior year, and then now I'm getting it right. Now going into first semester junior year, that's when because it was midterms, that's when I found out about him cheating. So that was the end of it. So now Chris is going into like second semester junior year, fully ended it with boyfriend number 1. And that was the first time that I had been single, like as an adult, not living at home. So that's number 1. And next episode, we will roll into boyfriend number 2. And there are 4 boyfriends to be discussing. 2 of which are the fiancés, which I alluded to in the intro episode. So stay tuned, guys.